Hello, and welcome to the green room. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Great.
How are you?
Good.
I'm feeling good today, actually. It's so nice, honestly, being outside in the green. It's like helping my mind, so I love it. This is like I'm hoping the summer will last as long as it can last on the East Coast. So but anyway, for those of you that are new to the green room, introducing Wrabel and Richard Tanenbaum. I'm super excited. All that actually, and Hannah Babbitt, who came on last week as a moderator, who I love. Actually, Hannah, why don't you take the microphone? The fake
Sure. So welcome to the green room. I would like to present everyone who is joining us today, starting with Jenna Andrews, the founder of the green room. She's also a platinum singer, songwriter, vocal producer, and executive producer for artists such as BTS, Benny, Noah Cyrus, J-Lo, Little Mix, Drake, to name a few. Jenna also A&Rs Noah Cyrus and Lennon Stella at Records, and is the co-owner of 27 Music Publishing with Barry Weiss and Sony ATV. Richard Tanenbaum is a clinical and business psychologist, a board-certified executive coach, and leadership consultant who works with a wide variety of private and public sector institutions, including retail and technology companies, academic medical centers, hospital systems, international development organizations, military, federal agencies, hospital systems, and the entertainment industry. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Welcome, Richard.
And
Thank
our
you.
guest today is Sir Stephen Wrabel. Wrabel is a singer, songwriter, and musician known for his hits 11 Blocks and The Village, while simultaneously writing such impactful records for Pink, Kesha, Marshmello, and the Backstreet Boys, to name just a few. While on tour with Pink, Wrabel was also named Billboard's Pride Artist of the Month, and his album was listed on Billboard Pride's 20 Best LGBTQ Albums of 2019. I can say on a personal level, Wrabel's contribution to the music industry and advocacy for the creative community and their mental health is simply remarkable and inspiring, and I am pleased to call him a friend.
Thank you.
Ah, Wrabel. Hannah, you're so good at this. I mean,
Thank you.
It's so hard to talk about your own self. Do you know what I mean? And I recently Hannah was so kind to offer to be the moderator on the green room. And I was like, yes, please, because it's so, I start to, speaking of anxiety, it's like, I start to get anxiety when I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what to say about myself. I like coffee, which makes my anxiety worse. Anyway.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I like coffee.
I'm Jenna. I like coffee and I'm really anxious. But anyway, so as always, I like to just mention the Jed Foundation. We're partnered with the Jed Foundation, which is a nonprofit for anybody that doesn't know. Obviously, if anyone's kind enough to donate after today, there's going to be a link in my Instagram and also in all the YouTube series that are posted on YouTube at TheJennaAndrews. And then we're also partnered with She's the Music, because we love females. We love males too, though. We love people. No, but we talked about this last time, Hannah, right? She is the Music is not really just about females. It's about, females sporting males too. It's kind of about coming together as one. And this is sort of what this show is supposed to be, I guess, just to be able to feel like not isolated alone, just to feel like we can be open about talking about things we, that bother us or that we feel fearful about. And I think that those two things, She is the Music, Jed Foundation, is just something that feels very important to me. So I love that they're involved in this whole thing. So.
And a big part of She is the Music is also speaking about the male allies in our creative community. And again, I can personally attest to the fact that Wrabel has been one of the strongest male allies for the female creative community for the past couple of years. He's also how I met one of my clients, Alex Hope.
That's so crazy.
Alex.
Who we love too. We love some Alex. But anyway, so thank you guys for coming again today to this Zoom world, 2020 Zoom world. I wish I could see you guys in person, but this will have to suffice for now. But no, I mean, today we're going to be talking about addiction. So I know that it's obviously a very sensitive subject. So I was even thinking to myself, oh, did somebody say something? Oh my God, that's so weird. I literally just heard a voice. Wow, that must be a ghost in my head. No, but I was saying it's a very sensitive subject. So even before today, I was like, how do we even approach like getting into this subject matter? Besides, I think the best way to do it is kind of just, talk about our personal experiences and not even have it be so formulaic, honestly. And I think, obviously I appreciate you being on here, Wrabel, and being open to speak about it. I thought, if you were comfortable, maybe you could talk about some of your experiences, for the positive and, negative, and things that you've done to overcome addiction in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess I can start like at the beginning, and then I'll try to give like a Reader's Digest version because I tend to digress.
Okay.
My first like taste of addiction started in high school. I probably when I was like 15, I would like go to the movies with my friends and bring like a backpack cooler that was just like stocked. I was like immediately always stocked. Like I was the kid with the fake ID, even though I had braces and like was clearly not of age. I had like this like really not good fake ID. And so I was always like buying booze for the kids in school, and like marking it up so that I could buy my own. And that was kind of a theme through my high school. But yeah, I think, especially I think in hindsight, we tend to see things more clearly. And when I look back, I can see how right out the gate, I was an addict. I was an alcoholic. I was looking for, I always say I was an equal opportunity addict. Like high school, I was, the first time I tried uppers, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is 2.0. Like everything is better. And so throughout high school, that just kind of spiraled a bit out of control, while maintaining life. I think that's kind of maybe the scariest part of addiction, is that so often you can maintain your life. Like I was going to high school, I was not failing out, I had friends, I would see my family every day. We had dinner together every single night, like while I'm like crushing a Vicodin in my closet, and like it turns into a lot of powder. And like hiding a nosebleed and staying up all night on coke, and then pretending to be asleep when my dad comes to wake me up, and like going to school without having like barely blinked the whole night. And I kind of didn't know, it's when intervention was like popping off. So I remember watching that and thinking like, well, I'm not that, like I haven't like, snorted my way out of house and home. And like, I was like, we were doing okay. If everything felt normal or whatever. And it didn't really, I don't know if it was just the exposure that I had to substances that just felt like when your friend is doing crystal meth in a Volvo station wagon, you kind of just are like, okay, that's normal. Like you're doing it. Yeah. And then hindsight, you're kind of like, oh my God, you're like 17 years old going to like buy crystal meth on a Wednesday. Like in hindsight, just thinking about how it really does just kind of hijack your whole self and your brain into doing things and normalizing things that are just like not cool. And so I got pulled over. It was after high school and after college. I went to college for a semester. Yeah. I remember going to Berkeley College of Music, and I remember the first day, my mom helped me get all checked in there, and then she left, and it was the first night of like welcome in the auditorium, whatever. And I remember telling myself, okay, we're here for a reason. We're not going to drink. We're not going to do drugs. Like, let's keep this clean. Like, this is your dream to be here. Like, let's go. And like, go to the thing. And like, by the end of the night, I'm like outside a liquor store trying to get someone to buy me booze. And like 2 mornings later, I wake up and my front door is wide open and there's like strangers in my apartment. And I'm just like, oh, like that didn't work. And so long story short, I moved to LA. I go back home for a visit over Christmas and I get pulled over for going like 85 and a 40.
Okay.
And they didn't do any DUI test, but I was so scared. And so as he's pulling me over, I'm texting my brother, like, I'm getting pulled over. I'm drunk. I'm freaking out. This is where I am. I'm parked outside this Starbucks. Can you tell? He was in California, I think, even. And I'm like, can you tell mom and dad to come get me? Like, I'm just so freaked out and I don't know what's about to happen. I get some ticket for exhibitionist driving or something. And no DUI. They didn't do any tests, which I'm half thankful for and half like, yeah, very much could have happened, because fast forward, it ended up happening. And so I the next morning I woke up and I said, I need help. Like I just knew that I couldn't. I'm a very stubborn person. I think I have a strong will, and I couldn't do that I couldn't will myself to just stop. It had taken over to where if I had a drink, there was no end of that for that day or that night or that week or that month or that year. It just started something that I couldn't see the end of. So I went to treatment in Texas. I got out on my 21st birthday and came back to LA and did pretty good. I did like, I was in AA. I did like 180 meetings in 90 days, like, because they say 90 and 90 is like really important. I was like freaking out because I was like, I have to, and getting sober in Texas is like, they're like Marlboro men, like you're going to die out, like very serious and very like Bible and very like kind of like fear of God kind of, which is a lot of, I grew up in church too, so I have plenty of the fear of God. And I lasted about almost 5 years sober. And I went through a really difficult breakup, my first breakup. And I was out of the country. I was in London for a few months making my first record that ended up to be an imaginary record. And we broke up and I had come out into this church and we got kicked out of the church and then tried to find other like it was all very like whatever solid ground I thought I had kind of just turned into quicksand regarding faith. And like when you grow up in the church, you have these foundational fundamental beliefs. And so when someone is telling you like there's something wrong with you, there's something that's not right, there's something off, there's a mistake, there's something is wired wrong, that really sinks in as like a fundamental belief of yourself. And for me, that really happened. And so that on top of this breakup, I was just pretty devastated and kind of lost. And so I had a drink in Hawaii at a swim up Mai Tai bar. And I had a drink and I had 6 drinks and I had 7 drinks and I went to the gift shop and bought a bottle of Jack Daniels and was hiding it behind the TV in the hotel room. So my then boyfriend, who was another boyfriend, wouldn't notice. And I was like I remember on the kind of chat before this, I was saying like, I was like sneaking sips from like my friends' drinks. Like it was back. And I knew that night, like it's a moment I probably will never forget of just being like, fuck, like everyone always told me like, if you pick up a drink, you're going to pick up right where you left off. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like I learned and I lived and I went to therapy and I got sober. I was sober for almost 5 years. Like, how can you tell me that I'm going to pick up a drink and it's going to be the same? Like I'm a different person now.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever, I'm sorry to cut you off, but have you ever seen the movie Flight with Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
Have you?
Where he's the pilot.
Yes, you
Yeah.
have seen it. Did that hit like a serious chord for you? I don't know if you remember watching.
Totally. That did, and also Beautiful Boy
I don't
with
know that I've seen that one.
Chalamet and Steve Carell.
I just know that when I saw Flight, like, and I'll tell you, I'm actually, I want you to finish because it's so crazy that you're saying some of this stuff because I relate to some of the stories that you're telling on such a big level. But I remember watching Flight and like the scene where like he's in the hotel room and like there's like the fridge of alcohol and he's like going to reach for it and they show his hand and he's like trying to decide whether or not he should reach for it and he reaches for it and the next morning the alcohol is all over the like. To me, I'm just like, honestly, I don't think, yeah, me too. Literally, can you see them over Zoom? I literally like it's crazy. I remember that movie probably moved me more than like most movies, but not even just on like the alcoholism and drug aspect of addiction, but just also like just being that addicted to something and being so scared to sort of face your realities that you're so, that's why we do these things. Cause we're, this is the way that we know how to cope. So I think in that moment I've never felt like that was like, holy fuck. Like that was just so intense. And I was just curious cause you were describing the moment where you're sipping your friend's drinks. And like, it reminded me of what they portrayed in that scene. Totally. Do you know what I mean? Just so crazy.
And I've had literally that moment. Like it's such a real, I'm so thankful now. Like I've been with my management for years and years and years. They are like a true godsend. And I haven't walked into a hotel room with a drop of alcohol in it. And I can't remember the last time because it's called ahead to remove everything. Keep the gummy bears and the soda and the fancy water. So if I do need a little pick me up, I can have it. But
wow, that's crazy.
It's a real thing. I've sat crisscross applesauce in front of a mini bar in a hotel room, staring at it in silence at 3 a.m, just hearing the buzz of the refrigerator, thinking about, well, what if I had that one? Or what if I had that one? Or what if I had that one? And how I have experienced addiction is that in that moment, if I can, whether it's will or whether it's a higher power or whether it's, I don't really care what it is at this point anymore. If I can not in that moment, then I just won. But if
Can I say
something? Yeah.
So no, I think this is a great conversation. So a couple of things, and then Jenna, I know you want to tell your story, so that would be great.
No, go ahead. I'm so glad that you're. I was about to ask you something. So go ahead.
Well, hold that question just for a second. But I just want to underline, Jenna, what you said about the importance of telling personal stories, right? So the people that are listening, that are hearing these stories, I'm sure they're nodding their heads and they understand and they can relate to that. And I think when we're talking about addiction, there's just what's so important is to have a community that's of support, right? So the Jed Foundation and other communities, I think that's really important. So I just want to, thank you as a listener for both of you telling your stories. I think it's interesting what you were saying, Wrabel, about, you'll sit in front of a mini bar and just say, well, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. Why don't I have this? But it's interesting because addiction, the substance becomes the perfect salvation, because it doesn't talk back. It's not judgmental. It's easy to access. It's always there. Nobody has to know what we're feeling. It's just such an easy thing. So it's not just the effect immediately or even longer about the substance. It's the fact that it's just available. It's there, and it just calms us. And even though we might feel some guilt and shame about that, maybe not, nobody has to know that. But the issue is that it's, after a while, it moves from ally to adversary, because it keeps us away from ourselves and it keeps us away from other people and it keeps us away from connection. And all those issues that are contributing to the fact that we are using substances are all still there, right? So it's just a temporary type of thing. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. And Wrabel, just one quick question for you, if you don't mind. If you went back to high school and when you said, well, I knew I was addicted, can you maybe help some of the people that are listening understand what maybe one or two of the triggers were for you, why that even started?
Yeah, I think in kind of hindsight, and once I seriously got into therapy, my therapist would constantly loop a lot back to growing up gay in a heteronormative society. And I almost, not even almost, I would question that, and I would push back and say, like, that sounds like an excuse, like almost trying to be harder on myself or something then. And she just kept stressing. And the more she stressed it, and the more I've worked with her for years now, the more I can see that it's not an excuse, it's just what is, and how much that really impacted just the sense of feeling, it doesn't have to be even sexuality, any sense of feeling different or weird or other or outside of, just walking down the halls feeling like I don't fit, looking at the whatever basketball player kid and being like, well, I'm not that, and looking at with this person and being like, I'm not that, and kind of just that sense of trying to figure out, like, where do I fit into this, while I'm knowing I do have this thing that makes me different, that I've since learned to celebrate, and I painted rainbows everywhere. Holding that inside and not feeling comfortable at all enough to tell anyone, and to actively trying to change that. Like, no, I think maybe if I just do this, like, everybody probably has these weird feelings, and maybe if I just keep my head down and whatever. And so, just as you said, like, any sort of substance allowed me to kind of forget that existed, or that I felt different, because throw a couple drinks back and now either I'm a social butterfly or I'm just by myself. I mean, I used to drink. There was a time we had this humongous house. I had a balcony off my bedroom. I would crack open a 6-pack of Tecate, like room temp.
Wait, hold on. What is that, Tecate?
It's like a gross beer.
Okay. I'm like, wait, I don't even know what that is. Okay.
It just really allowed, like, a big exhale. And it was something that I could control, even though, joke's on me, like, I couldn't control it. It felt like I was in control. If I was the one picking that up and opening that, if I was the one going to the store to get it, if I was the one with the bag. I mean, I called it like my magical pouch. It had like every drug known to man, every drink known to man. I had a cutting board. I had citrus fruits. I had shot glasses. I had mixing, like, it became this whole thing where, like, this is mine. I have this. It's like my go bag. And I think the triggers for me were just anything, any uncomfortable feeling.
That's what happens. So the triggers, sometimes it's easier for us to identify the triggers when they're happening, when we're first starting through this process. But I think it's really important what you're saying is that then the triggers expand, and it's, anything. I ran out of toothpaste and I'm just really frustrated. I'll have a drink.
Literally, it becomes, it's like, oh, it's raining today. I'm sad. I'm going to stay inside. Oh, it's sunny.
100%.
I'm going to have and the flip side is like,
so true.
It becomes like my second little drinking time after I got unsober was, they made fun of me because when I went to treatment, they were like, what, they would go around and say, like, well, what was your thing? What was your drink of choice? And I was like, mine was Veuve Rosé. And they're like, what? And I was like, I was celebrating. And we were laughing because it's like, And then it got to this really deep thing where I was like, oh my God, it's so dark, because I had drank away so much of the good stuff in my life and the good feelings within me. Because, and it's a cliche that I've heard so much, but if you try to cut out the lows, you're going to cut out the highs too.
Right.
And
Great.
Wow, I can't believe, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, like, that literally just like I felt 100%, because I have to ask you something after you're done. I don't want to cut you off, but I really want to ask you something about that very thing. So just
I was just saying,
okay, I felt bad. I had to interrupt you because you said that, because that was going to be my question for both of you, actually, because I was actually just curious about your like opinion or advice or whatever, but like, because I feel like obviously a lot of times you drink to prevent anxiety or sadness, or those are the things that you think that you drink for, but it almost sometimes becomes like, it's like boring if you don't. You're like, how do I live life sober? Like, I actually don't feel like I can go a full week just like not having some sort of thing to lift my spirit, like, because it's fun. So it's like, does that mean that you're depressed, or does it just, do you not know how to enjoy a high anymore? Like, you just said it. I was like, holy fuck, because the fact that like, like, how do you feel high when you already, when you have this thing that you know you can have so much fun doing? So like, that's a part of it, right? I mean, I don't know. Like, I was so curious about that.
So I think it's a real good point. And going back to what Wrabel said, is that, you know, after people are using a substance, they sort of forget, if they had these things before, they forget what's made them feel better in the past, or they've cut themselves off from even the possibility of immersing themselves in an experience or a situation that would give them that. So then the substance becomes even more powerful, because like you said, it becomes the cure all, because there's nothing else there. So I guess the issue, Jenna, and I don't know if this is really answering your question, but the issue is that I think what substance use and then substance abuse does is it just cuts us off from connection, right? Even connection to self. We think we're connected to ourselves, but we're not really, because we're dulling whatever we need to dull. And when you said, well, is it stress or is it, you know, anxiety or whatever? Usually they commingle, right? So people are either anxious or depressed, or maybe not, but they commingle. But I think the fact is that, again, it becomes salvation with a capital S. There's nothing else that's as good. But part of it is because we've disconnected sometimes from life in general. And I think the other thing that I just point out, and we don't have to talk about it, but it sort of goes with the self-blame type of piece, that, and the shame and guilt that sometimes occurs, is that there is evidence now, there's good evidence that there's a genetic component to this. There are genes, genetic markers, that predispose individuals to substance use and abuse. But it's a predisposition. So it's like diabetes. So, you know, people may be predisposed to diabetes, but if they eat well and they exercise, they'll never have the disease. And it's the same with, let's say, alcoholism, that there's a predisposition, but then you add on stress and, you know, environmental factors and issues, and then it manifests itself. So I think it's important for everybody to understand, and the people that are listening, is that, you know, there's a force sort of pre-wired or innate that's also setting the groundwork for this. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yo, yeah, because I'm thinking, like you said, it's almost like you drive yourself, and I think Wrabel was saying this too, is to a certain type of numbness. So it's like, it makes you feel like I don't know, I think this is what you're saying, but you almost forget. Like, the connection part really makes a lot of sense, because you think you're so used to living a certain type of way, and you're like, oh, because like you may wake up and be like, I feel great today, but then you have a drink casually and you think, oh, this is totally fine and part of life, and like, I don't feel like I'm an alcoholic or depressed. But at the same time, like, if you don't do that or don't have it, even if you are like a casual drinker, I feel like there's some sort of reliance there, and you can't like, you know, you do have like, you do end up forgetting about the things that can just be fun in normal life. And I'm saying that from personal experience, because like I've like relied on alcohol a lot for anxiety, and like I've asked therapists, like, am I an alcoholic? Does this mean, you know, it's like Wrabel said too, it's like, it doesn't affect my life. I go on, I show up on, well, I don't always show up in time, but that's another thing. but I do my job. I do, you know, I'm obviously like, you know, like a hard worker. I'm super driven. Like, it doesn't like affect my work. So I think in that case, I feel like you get a pass. So it's fine, you know, but then at the end of the day, it's like, you know, that drink always is like the thing that seems to like, okay, now I can relax because I'm so high strung. But then now that you guys are talking about this, it makes me be like sometimes I literally think like, how else could I, like, I don't even, this is so part of my routine that it's almost like, I don't know, like maybe I forget other things that I could have done before. Cause I think back, like, obviously there was a time where I didn't drink. So I'm like, what was fun then? Like literally sometimes I think like, this seems so fucked up, but I'm just going to say it 'cause it's fine. This is what this is for. But like, I'll think of kids and I'm like, wow, it's so crazy. Like, kids don't drink. How do they have so much fun? How does that thought go through my head? Like,
I think that makes sense. I don't think that's not a terrible thought. I mean, even my experience of getting sober, like, and I made fun of it a lot, but also I ended up it ended up actually reconnecting me with. I like to think I'm a big kid, and I think the people closest to me attest to that. And I love, like, whimsical is my favorite word in the entire English language. And I remember getting sober, and the activities were always like fucking bowling and fucking like roller skating. And can I tell you that this sounds so lame, but do you know what's so fun? Bowling, roller skating. And I had my 30th birthday at a roller skating rink. I rented out this rink, and I had I got like way too many, I got like 100 fucking cakes. I don't know 100 people. And I had a caricature artist, and like, it sounds silly, and it sounds like, I don't know, whatever, but like, there is truth to looking at like, what does a kid do? Like,
right?
they have frozen yogurt and they put too many gummy worms on it. And like, can I tell you what's awesome? Getting frozen yogurt and putting too many gummy worms on it. Like, there is
true.
really beautiful, pure, simple truth in like, and I say this now 5.5 years sober with a sober head. I haven't, you know, I haven't had a drink in a really long time.
That's crazy.
I've been, you know, in my head for a long time. But those things really have picked up such a beautiful, you know, I love going to have a meal with friends and with way too many people at a table, and even just those simple things, not that it's the same as a drink. Like, I say this after having done, I think you have to do so much work on yourself, and I think it's a continuous thing forever and ever. It's not like if you start roller skating, you'll be sober.
That's what, oh my God, it's so funny. I feel like you're like a psychic, because every time I literally want to ask you something, you just answered it. That's like what I was going to say, because I was curious to ask you, like, how long did it take you? Because like, I'm the same way. I'm a big kid too. And I love Disneyland, and I'm all about, like, trust me, I'm like, yes. But at the same time, I'm like, how long did it take you to, was it like, okay, literally, like, obviously, yes, you went to rehab, which I would love for you to talk about, but like, after that, could you just literally go bowling and roller skating, and that would really relieve anxiety and fear, and you would feel like the same sort of release, like, right away? Or how long did that take you?
I would say nothing ever would. There it goes. I would say nothing has ever given me the same kind of release. And that to me that's been an important thing for me to learn, and a hard pill to swallow. But I've learned that nothing will ever give me the feeling that drugs or alcohol gave me. Nothing will ever give me that sense of whatever I don't even know the adjectives to describe it. But I think the biggest thing that I have tried to do and continually try to do is, and like in AA, I'm not part of AA anymore. But and I think there's many ways you can get sober and remain sober, and more than be sober, learn about yourself and care
enjoy life.
yourself.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, yeah, it just seems.
Nothing's ever given me that same feeling. But in AA they say play the tape, meaning like if I think like, oh, I would just want to drink right now, it's like play that tape through. Like, you know how that goes. I've done it enough times to know that if I had a drink, like I don't drink right now at the dark, even in this quarantine, I had one Google search of like, how fast could I get a bottle of tequila to my house? Like in a discreet box, or like where it won't show on the billing. Because like, I remember one time I bought a pack of cigarettes at a liquor store, and now I have people in my life, thank God, that will see that on my credit card and say, hey, are you okay? I'm just checking in. I saw like whatever, LOL liquor on your thing, and I just want to make sure that you're okay. And I'm like, oh my God, like, thank you. But I just bought a pack of Virginia Slims. But when I play that tape through, I can see that it doesn't give me as much as I think it's this wonderful thing. With enough distance from it, I can see that it's like the fucking devil. Like, I'm not like Richard, when you said that it creates distance kind of from yourself, I was like stopping myself from like full crying, because I think for me it was, I got smaller and smaller and smaller while I seemed like I was getting bigger and bigger.
Yes. Oh my God.
Once driving down the street in my Prius with my little Starbucks cup of rosé, thinking that I am on top of the world, windows down, sunroof open, listening to Jay-Z, thinking like I'm living the fucking life right now. And the reality is that in that very moment, I had squished myself down to like the size of like a grain of rice, like somewhere in my gut, and could feel this pressure just pushing everything down, everything down, everything down. And it almost created this buffer around myself where I didn't know who I was without that. I forgot that I had hopes and dreams and aspirations, and that I wanted love, and that, it becomes this, just like you said, a cure-all. Like, it becomes the only thing. It was the deciding factor in every single thing I did. Or, you want to go to this dinner? Can I drink there? Do you want to go to this whatever? Can I drink there? Do you want to do this? Can I drink there? Do you want to go to Disneyland? Yeah, but we have to start in California Adventure so I can have some drinks, and then we can go over to the other park.
Oh my God, I have said that exact same thing.
And it just becomes this. My experience was that I became so small, and going to rehab, I went for 2 months. I went to 2 different centers. I learned, like, 2 of the biggest moments I had were at the first center, which was very bougie and fancy. And although I love bougie, fancy things, after a month there, I knew that like I was not ready to go into the world. And I'm so proud of myself for saying that then when I did it. But I had this really cool moment with, after a group session, the therapist said, "Can you hang back?" And I was like, "Yeah." Because I was goofing off the whole time and whatever. And he was like, can we just try to sit still on the couch for a second? And I was like, no. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, let's just kind of sit still. I could cry now, even just thinking about it. And even just think, I think I should practice this on my own right about now. And we sat still, and maybe 45 seconds in, I was sobbing, like wailing, like this stuff is coming up. I don't even know what it is, like sounds like guttural sobbing. And he's like, that's what I thought was going to happen. Because it just becomes all this stuff. And it takes time and it takes practice to get shit out and to let it come out. Because I've been so used to distracting and diverting and like, look at this shiny thing, or look at this bottle of whatever. And that moment, and another moment where a therapist asked me like, why are you doing this? And I guess I made some micro expression on my face, and he kind of got in my face and he goes, what was that? And I was like, no, like nothing. And he's like, what was that? And he kept saying, what was that? What was that? Until I was able to kind of, for the first time in my whole entire life, let this veil drop. And like that moment shattered something because someone saw. It's almost like somebody saw the grain of rice, it felt like. And someone said, like, you're in there. And that's what you need to get through this, is you need you, not whatever. You can, if you go to therapy enough, you can therapize and you can have a conversation with whoever about use all the words and make it feel like I'm really self-aware and I know exactly what's going on and here's my A+ paper. And the truth is, like, for me, I needed to fucking sob for a long time and crack myself open to be able to grow that grain of rice into something that now I feel. On my best day, I feel that same aura that I felt like when I was drinking rosé in my fucking Prius driving down Hollywood Boulevard, where I feel like I'm glowing like through the fucking car. And like now on my best day, I feel that.
Wow. But
Wrabel,
yeah, go ahead.
Wrabel, if you were going to, because I think, again, for people that are listening, this might be really helpful. First of all, really thank you for that, because it's exactly so right and such a wonderful way of describing that experience of shrinking until you're almost invisible. But then there is another person or persons that can see you still, even though many couldn't, and you can't see yourself. So thank you for that. But if you were talking to that kid a long time ago, and this kid was sort of refusing rehab or didn't think they had a problem, what would you say at this point to that kid? How would you encourage someone to confront this issue? I just think that would be really helpful.
I think there's like flip sides of it, because in some ways I think it's so self. Like I had to come to the conclusion on my own that I could not go on, and I didn't want to go on like I was, because I was scared. I mean, in my darkest moments, I was scared that I was going to die, whether at my own hand, at my own hands in some way, shape, or form. And I got so scared. But I think, if you're a young person and you even have the thought, like, am I an addict, or do I have a problem? I would say, please talk to someone at the very least. Because if you talk to someone, it can help you. If you're asking yourself that question, I say, like, hats off to you, clapping for you, because that awareness and that openness to even ask that question is I would say 99% of the battle is even the openness and willingness to look at yourself. And I think reaching out for help or for a hand or for an ear is so important, because I don't think we can do this alone, but the good news is that we're completely not alone, literally never, ever alone. And even if it's a 24-hour 1-800, like, there are beautiful people in this world that are sitting, looking at their phone, waiting for a call and waiting to help and to love and to listen. One of my best friends is a therapist. She works on a line. Like, I always tell her, like, oh my gosh, if I could be so lucky to be a teenager having a really hard time and call and you pick up the phone, I get like tears in my eyes thinking, like, there are beautiful, beautiful people in this world that dedicate their lives to something as seemingly simple, but could not be more far from simple, of picking up the phone when somebody needs it.
And we've listed those resources in the chat as well. So anyone watching, there are several resources. Music Cares, I know, has been immensely helpful in your life, Wrabel, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, I think it's interesting too. Obviously, we're talking to a wide variety of an audience here, but also your experience, as with most songwriters, has spurred into an incredible music career. And there's one song that you know is my favorite song, 90 Days, that Pink ended up jumping on, and you went on tour with Pink. And I know a little bit of background, but I'd love for you to go into the origin of 90 Days.
Yeah, 90 Days. Thank you so much for all that. 90 Days was a song. I wrote it with Steve Robson, who's incredible and so just magical man, and so in tune, I think, to just that kind of invisible force field of fairy dust. And we wrote that song. I was falling in love and very, that's scary after you've had a few low blows in that department. And I was just thinking about how, in my own experience of addiction and getting sober, drawing parallels to that and losing someone, or having, even more than losing someone, having to actively fall out of love with someone, to me felt like a really similar thing as getting sober, because I'm not like a sober addict who is like, screw alcohol, screw drugs. I'm like, cocaine is dope. It's awesome. Like, it just is. I know that. I've done it enough to know, like, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And so in getting sober, I had to, when you love someone, you don't just all of a sudden not love them. You might hate them at the same time. I definitely hate cocaine also. But it was this interesting parallel for me that like, I have to reframe this, and I have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and put it all here and make a Venn diagram. And I also have to stay alive, and I have to, like, take care of myself and make decisions that are for me, not for cocaine or not for my ex-boyfriend. And it was just this interesting parallel. And so when we sat down to write that song, I kind of talked about it earlier, they tell you that the first 90 days, if you can make it 90 days sober, your chances of making it, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the rest of your life, go up exponentially. Because those first 3 months are like, and kind of, Jenna, what you were talking about, like, well, what do I do to have fun? Like, that first 90 days, LOL. Like, I had no idea what the fuck to do, not even to have fun. I had no idea what the fuck to do with 20 minutes. There were times where I had friends that I would call people. I'm so thankful for these people in my life that have literally, like, saved my life. And for something as simple as, like, can you pick me up? And then I'd go to my friend's house. And then when she had to go to work, she'd drop me off at our other friend. And then when they had to go to bed, they'd drop me off back at her place so I could sleep there. And then when we woke up, my other friend picked me up. And then, like, I had to lean on people so hard to just figure out, like, not even just how to have fun, but, like, how do I wake up and take a shower and get ready for a day? And if I have 30 minutes before work, what do I do with that 30 minutes? And then when I get to work, how do I work without this? And then when I finish with work, how do I decompress from the day? And then
that was what I was going to say, like, in terms of writing and stuff and being creative, like, I would think, I mean, for me, that's part of it. Like, I always feel like I'm always the wine, like, I've never been like a drug person at all. Like, and that's the thing, like, alcohol has always been like my, I don't know, the one downfall. And I feel like in a creative aspect, a lot of people smoke weed, but for me, it was like, okay, a couple glasses of wine, and then you feel like you can be more creative, or be, obviously it, like, takes the edge off, and you feel like a little less, like, these situations can be intense, like this is, right? It's always a little intense to talk so deeply about emotions. So I'm curious, like, was that, I mean, you mentioned that you would take, like, bottles of wine to the studio. So what was, like, what Did you find the creative process different without alcohol?
I did. I want to ask you this, and I mean this, and I'm just curious. Your favorite songs, your biggest songs, were some of those, or what majority of those written with or without?
Oh, interesting. Wait, the ones that I've written.
Yeah.
Wait, good question. I think without.
I don't think that there's a blanket statement that I can make here, but one thing that I found that I was very surprised to find was that when I was drinking, and one of my best friends we were like Thelma Louise, and they have the same experience, like not until they reached sobriety. It was like they reached sobriety and boom, like they're on a billboard. And they own Billboard. and for myself, I always thought that and I know that this cannot be a blanket statement, because I know that there are plenty of like incredibly sad stories of some of the most legendary creative people that did it. All their biggest things under the influence of all types of things that are no longer with us. But I found for myself, and I often kind of throw it out just as a challenge, or even just as something to think about, that I always thought that this is getting me so in touch with my feelings. This is getting me so, when I go on the mic, like it's just
exactly.
out, and it's amazing. For me, I go back and listen to those songs. I'm like, I thought this was dope. This shit sucks. It just felt like.
Let me just say something. Just sorry to interrupt you.
That's
just
crazy.
Because I just want to let you know that and I don't want to be just someone who just like quotes research and science and stuff, but I think it's helpful to know that that's usually the sense, that this is going to help me. And when I'm drinking or doing drugs, I'm just, my creative energies are really high and this is great. But the research is it's just the opposite. It just shuts down the creativity. And what you're saying, Wrabel, is just that you don't know that until you're in that other state, right? But there's articles, there's lots of science written about this, that the sense is, well, I do this just from my process, from my creative process. It's necessary, it's helpful. But it's not true. It cuts people. And again, it goes back to what you're all saying about becoming invisible. It's not only that you become individual as a human being, but your talents and gifts become less and less. And if you wait too long, like there are some people who have, then those become invisible. Even Eminem talks about his experience and thinking that, this was just such a great thing, until he had to retrain himself because it was so long that he couldn't do what his gift had allowed him to do for a really long time.
Yeah.
So
really, I just was curious to hear, Jenna, your own experience with that, because I've had songs.
What about for you? Yeah.
I've had, the only song I can think of that I was like fucked up writing was a Kesha song, Woman. I was drinking like rosé with like emergency in it. And that was fun, and I won't take away the fun from that, but for the most, 99.9%, because when I got sober, I was really scared. And a lot of creative people I've talked to can relate to this, of feeling like this is going to ruin my whole career. Like, I can't be sober. Like, I'm fucked up. That's what I do. I get fucked up and I write songs. And I'm like, are they any good? And I know that some people say yes and that it's true. And I know that there's shit. If you look at the chart, I know that some of that shit was made under the influence of all types of things. So I don't try to make some big, but I do, Richard, what you said is like, for myself, I found that I can now be more present. And so even when I'm writing, I can insert myself into it in ways that I couldn't because I wasn't there.
Right.
It was just this big cloud of smoke. Like, I was just blowing fucking smoke a lot that I thought was really cool. And I thought it was so good. And I remember when I got sober this last time, I got a DUI in Burbank. I was in the middle of a week of writing with one of my best friends and this big DJ that I've done some stuff with. And we were like at some bougie studio and, you know, like we were smoking cigs indoors and I was like nursing a bottle of Tito's out of my Marc Jacobs backpack. And I thought it was so cute and fun. And it's fully catered and it, you know, it all felt really cool. And I'm just blasted writing songs. And like looking back, I'm like, I wasn't there. Like the songs aren't that good. One of those songs came out, but like, I don't know. And even looking back on times that I've toured fucked up and like the things that I stole from myself, like these beautiful memories that I should have, and they're distorted by this because I thought it was cool or bigger than that. I know it's bigger than that because I needed it to literally get through. But like, I remember the first time I played so many songs really, but like I went on tour with this song 10 Feet Tall with Afrojack, and like there's just memories that I wish that I should have, that I either don't, or that they're distorted by this thing of me thinking, oh, this is gonna be better. I'm gonna sing so much better if I'm fucked up. Guess what? No, I'm not. I'm gonna forget the fucking words. I'm gonna tie a like bow tie on my forehead and try to rap on stage in New Jersey, which is what I did one time. I had him play Big Sean, and I'm thinking that I'm like, what the fuck? Like I have shame about like, and not even shame, but like sadness over like when I did think that alcohol was gonna give me this like fucking superpower. Like, oh, I'm gonna like, I could sing so freely. And it's like, no, I can sing like way out of tune and like completely misrepresent myself. Where the whole time I kind of thought I was doing something for like, oh, this is gonna be better because I'm gonna be loose and I'm gonna feel good.
Yeah, that's so crazy. It's literally like insane how you keep like reading my mind with the blur. Like I was thinking about because I literally was thinking about that too. Cause I went through that a lot. So like when I first got signed, I had so much anxiety about it. And there was one time I did it like a small show, just like a small one with my guitar, and I fell off the chair. And it's like, that's when you know that's like really fucking bad. And like, anyway, like it got so bad at that point. Actually, it was actually right before I was about to go showcase. I did like a bunch of showcases for labels. Actually, it was the week before I think that it happened. And so the producer I was working with at the time, he was like, I'm literally not going to work with you anymore unless you get sober. Like you have to, like your career is not going to go anywhere. Like, it's just like, this is crazy. So I became sober for like a year. And I got signed. I got like this TV show. Like it was crazy. That's when you were saying all this stuff, and all this shit happened that was so good. And but on the flip side, that's when I really have never. That's when I experienced my first panic attack. That's when like all this like anxiety really came out of me, and it was really hard. It was really hard to deal with. That's why I'm asking these questions. And like now, fast forwarding to today, you know. Like I still drink wine and I don't like over drink, but I feel that like, it's weird. It's like, how do you know, like, obviously alcoholism is in me, but I know not to get like, I don't go crazy, but I feel that like, I still need it to be like, okay, this is going to make me less nervous. But sometimes I do think like, fuck, maybe I should just become sober again and just like not drink at all, even though I'm not going overboard like I used to. Like I would go really overboard before, but there's a difference. And that was another question I wanted to ask you in terms of like, where do you draw the line? Is it like blackout drunk? Is that when you're like, okay, fuck? Or is it just like any sort of reliance for both of you? I don't know. I'm curious.
I would say, Richard, you probably have more, for me, I think.
Well, I think it's interesting from your perspective too. Because I don't know.
I know that I can't have a drop. I mean, in the past 5.5 years, I've had one sit accidentally at the Soho House. It's the last time I've ever been to the Soho House, because it's also just like, if you want to talk about having a panic attack.
Yes, exactly. That's
I got a ginger ale Red Bull, because that's like my, if everybody's gonna be fucked up, then I'm at least gonna have like a few sips of Red Bull.
Okay, Wrabel, I literally think you're my soulmate, okay? Because can I just tell you, I took on Red Bull that year that I became sober.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I used to smash fucking Red Bull.
No. Oh.
I just know that I draw the line at I can't touch it. If I don't drink now because I know the stakes. I know what the stakes. I'm afraid that if I have a drink, that I won't be here anymore.
Got it.
In a very, very real, all caps, bold, italic, maybe in Comic Sans, just to make me smile. But like, I know that that's the stakes for me. And I think, like, when you were saying that someone challenged you and that you were sober for a year, I applaud that. I would say that if anyone is asking themselves, if anyone's questioning their use, or am I dependent on this, or I would say, I would even challenge you to like take a week off, take a month off, see how you feel, talk to somebody, take the pressure and the stigma and all the labels, and you don't have to say, I'm an alcoholic and I have to be sober forever and I'm going to rehab tomorrow.
Right.
I think everyone, like, I think it's so easy for us all to forget that alcohol is a drug. Like, and I don't say that in some weird, like, that I don't know that I think it should be banned or whatever, but I just mean it in like, I think it's so easy to forget because it's everywhere.
Right.
And because it's literally fucking everywhere. Like, that it is a drug. It's mind altering. It affects your brain chemistry. And even when people are using it even casually for anxiety or depression, Richard, you probably know more about this than me, but like, it actually fucks that shit up. And you're actually end up feeling more depressed and more anxious.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. So, and I just wrote down panic attacks. But anyway, alcohol does do that. So the short-term gain is that we feel more relaxed, but actually it can increase the extent to which or how frequently and how intense we feel our anxiety and depression. So yeah, I mean, it's like, it goes back to what you all were saying about sort of this love-hate relationship, so, I'll love you today, I'll hate you tomorrow, or I hate you right now, but I'm gonna love you tomorrow, I promise, I'll come back to you, right? So, but Wrabel, you should be sitting in my seat, seriously. You said it perfectly.
Thank you.
I think Jenna, you have to decide what you believe is reasonable in terms of moderation, and then see whether or not that's something that you can adhere to, really, and just have that experiment. And I think that's one thing to do. So yeah, so I think that's sort of what you sort of do a test and see how it goes and whatever. But the other thing is just to have the knowledge, which I know you both do, that bottom line, it can be sort of a slippery slope. This is an analogy. It's probably a really bad analogy, but I'll use it anyway because I can't think of anything else right now.
Genius, by the way. Just when people say that, it's a good thing.
Okay, so for instance, chocolate. I love chocolate. I know some people who can buy like a bag of chocolate or a bar of chocolate and it lasts for like a month.
Oh, right.
They have one piece and whatever. Me, I will eat the whole bar. Seriously, I can't control myself. And again, there's research and science about this. There's some people who can, metaphorically speaking or literally speaking, can have a piece of chocolate and then they don't, they can have it in 2 weeks. There are others who, when there's a substance or something that they really like, it's sort of like they can't control it, right? And I'm not saying that's what's going on, but this issue of, what? Let me see what it's like. What's my experience when I tell myself I'm going to have this many glasses of wine, a day, a week, and And what's that like for me? You know? And then the other piece, like I said, is to know that it's a slippery slope for any of us. But yeah.
No, I love that you said that I love that you said that because I was actually I had that thought in my mind too. It's just like I'm you know, I haven't eaten meat since I was 11, and it's like I wouldn't even, I mean, you could put the best smelling slice of steak or chicken or whatever like people are eating, I would never want to touch it again, right? It's like, but on the and I know it's a little bit like funny, but why is it that, like, to me it's like you can have an addiction to food just the same way you can to alcohol. Obviously, like alcohol is probably worse. Obviously there's issues to be, you know, having food. There's any addiction is really not good, you know? So, but yeah, no, I think that's a really fair point, because like, that's another example of like something that you feel like that chocolate staring at you every time you walk by the kitchen, and then you're like, take one bite and you're like, I have to eat the whole cake. I can't just have, it's the same shit about a bottle of wine. I can't have one glass of wine. I have to have the whole bottle.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of like,
have a fucking another one lined up.
Well, we've had a few questions come through, most of which you've all answered already. I think everyone's reading each other's minds today. There's actually a question that came through for me.
Ah.
And I think this is an important one, actually. Hannah, does hearing about these experiences help you in your line of work? So to preface, I manage producers and songwriters. And a few years ago, Wrabel and I worked together. That's how we started to know each other. For me, mental health, which is a big reason why I joined the Green Room, is above all when it comes to my clients. You cannot be your most creative and healthy self if you don't look out for yourself and practice self-care. So that's something, today I had a conversation with 2 different clients where they just needed the day off. Take it off, go enjoy your life, live your life, because I can't do my job if you aren't taking care of yourself. So I think it's so important. And Wrabel, I know your team is same way as me. We're very aligned, and Jenna, yours as well, where if you're an executive working in the music or entertainment industry, you need to acknowledge that creatives are not machines. They're
right.
human. And that's why they create music or art where the general audience can connect to it. If you're just working every single day and trying to spend all of your creative juices and not focusing on living your life and taking care of yourself, it's not going to work. So for me in my position, mental health comes first. Nothing else matters. And in fact, I once joined Wrabel on tour, on a tour bus, because he didn't say anything to me, but I sensed that he was feeling isolated in a situation that he was uncomfortable with. And it was in Vegas, of all places. It was Vegas. So I joined him in Vegas, and we took a tour bus back. I had an amazing time. We had some interesting situations, but I think it's about checking in on your strong friends too. That's a big thing.
I just want to add on to that. And I know that I had a little love fest with you on the phone the other day, but I just respect and appreciate so much because, and there's a parallel through every industry. I know from the entertainment industry because that's where I am, but I know in every industry that it's not always people first. And I've always admired and respected how you approach everything as people first, as heart first, and not as, you know, it's so easy for, again, in every industry, but speaking from my own experience, it's so easy within this industry to be viewed as a machine or just as your work. And like, well, you're only as good as the last song you wrote, or you're only as worthy of whatever. You're only worthy of the praise based on performance, and you're only worthy of the time of picking up the phone. And I have, like, there are managers out there, there are publishers out there, there are labels out there that don't give a fuck about their people, that don't give a flying fuck. And that is so wrong. And so I just admire and respect you so much. I love my publisher and my management, like my business management. Like, again, these are the people that are checking on me when they see a liquor store charge for $7. Like, I just think that we need you, and we need people like you. And I just admire and respect that so much, because you shine as this safe space. And also, if companies want to look at the bottom line, guess what? The bottom line is going to be fucking better if everybody's feeling good, is taking rest, is taking care of themselves. And sometimes we need help. Sometimes I need help taking care of myself. And sometimes I need to call my manager and say, what do? I just need to, and sometimes I need the day off. And
Yeah.
I just want to say that I respect and admire that so much, because unfortunately it can be rare in so many industries, even just in the world. But I think especially in this weird entertainment industry where people are just foaming at the mouth trying to find the next fucking thing. And
yeah. And that's the thing though, right? Because, sorry to cut you, but I totally think that it's like, it's so weird that creatives are being objectified, because the thing is, I hear you, and it's any business, but truthfully, we're like emotional creatures, right? So it's like the fact that we're so emotional, it's like, it's always the biggest juxtaposition to have the music and business in the same sentence. Like, it's just, and I think that, yeah, like me and Hannah always talk about this. It's like, and I've talked about this with many other friends, and I believe that, I don't know, I think we talked about this before too, maybe on our last call, but that like award shows, you know what I mean? Like people watch award shows and they think, oh, everyone's so excited, it's so great and fun. Everyone, for the most part, is freaking out inside. And they're just like, oh my God, I have so much anxiety, and like, am I good enough? Are they judging me? And like half the time it's like, people even like care? Like the thing is, everyone's like, hey, Wrabel, how are you doing? Blah, blah. And you're like, you don't give a shit. You're not even looking me in the eye. Like do you actually care? Like, right. They're just looking at you like this, like, hey, how are you? Okay, see you later. You're like, and it's just kind of at what point you have to, at some point, like, especially in our business, really, really, really pay attention to this shit. Otherwise, that's how you lose yourself, right? It's because you're going to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. I am an object. It's fine. I'm an object. Like, right. Just treat it like that. And when you start doing that, I mean, that's when it's like extra downhill, because it's like in everybody's position, in my opinion.
And then and sort of Hannah and Jenna and Wrabel, you all talked about this. It's really important to find people in your lives that you can sort of trust and stay connected to, right? Yeah. Because at least some of the people that I've worked with in the entertainment industry become very guarded and cautious about with whom they interact, and which ultimately leaves them in a place of isolation. So just because in certain situations, there may be a sense that people want something, or I can't trust them, or they're not being honest, or who knows what's going to happen. But again, that idea of having a network of support, of people that you can really depend on, is really, really important. And then you're right, it's every industry in which I work, this whole issue of self-care comes up. People that are working 80 hours a week, and all of a sudden, or they've worked 20 years for an organization and then they're let go, right? So this idea about, well, wait a second, I thought we were family. Well, no, I guess we're not family, so things are, tenuous, things can change, but creatives, again, there is more, again, research-based emotion and sensitivity and all of that. But one thing I also wanted to add is the importance of creative sort of outputs. When we talk about addiction or anything, is whether it's writing music, lyrics, art, but nobody has to be like a violinist or a musician or a singer or whatever. You can be creative by just sort of thinking differently about a problem. And again, I think people might still be listening. We're still on, Hannah, for a while, or we're?
Oh no, people are listening. I was literally just thinking in my head. I was like, it's so funny because I think this conversation is such an important, like, it's not even. Of course, it's important, but beyond that, I think that like it's we could literally talk all day because it's. And I feel like we should probably call each other later and continue to talk, because honestly, this is like, this is what it's supposed to be. And there's no like specific time limit, honestly, on these things, because it should be natural. But having said that, I think, you know, we can, I mean, I wanted to do like one more question. I feel like at some point we're literally going to go all day if we don't give ourselves. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I think that this whole conversation, hopefully for me, for, you know, for the people watching, totally has helped a lot. Like this, you know, some really good advice. And Wrabel, I really appreciate from you, especially for you going through it and be able to like actually be coming out on the other side and showing people that, hey, like, I'm living my life. I'm doing what I love. I'm like a fucking badass songwriter and I'm like killing it, but I'm sober. Like, that's pretty cool. Like,
I have one last question for all three of you. So we're all in isolation.
Yes.
How do you deal in isolation when you struggle with addiction?
Oh my God. Okay. Who's going first on this one?
Steven, I think you should go first on this one.
I would say, please call somebody. Please text somebody. I have tried to I have a small network of friends that I try to text a heart, you know, because it's Thursday or whatever. Little things can go a long way. If you're feeling like you're alone and you're feeling like there's an issue, please call somebody. Call a 1-800 number. We'll have those resources there. I think it's a really fucking hard time for so many people. You're not alone in literally any feeling that you could possibly have or thought. Someone else has had that feeling or had that thought. I've had a lot of wild thoughts and wild feelings. And in my darkest times, maybe my biggest regrets are that I didn't just wake the person up that was maybe in the bed next to me, or text someone or call someone, because that outlet, it's not gone. It's changed. We're on Zoom right now. We're not in person, but it's not gone. All your people are not gone. All the love is not gone, and all the hope is not gone. This isn't forever. It's a really hard season, and it's unfortunately a really long season, but it's not forever, and it's not worth whatever that thing on the other side of that thought is. It's not worth that. I promise you it's not worth that. If you just try to get in the space that you're in, be here, call somebody, you can be there with them. If you can go for a walk with masks and 6 feet apart, do that. That's so nice. Talk to someone in a safe way. But we're not alone, even though we can be pretty fucking lonely.
I know. No, that's great advice. I mean, I was going to say, a lot that's helped me over this time is that, like, even when, you know, days where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna, or even weeks where in this whole time where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna have any alcohol or do anything, like, just be able to like enjoy life. I think I've just trying new things, you know, even starting the green room has been amazing, because I feel like it's just something that I really love and love talking about. It's very therapeutic. And I also think like things like changing your diet, like just little things. I mean, I don't drink enough water. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Whole Foods and get a bunch of like water, like great, like I just salt-free, like trying different nutritious things that maybe help you feel better in your body. Cause I think obviously the mind, body, soul connection is a big deal. So I think that, like, you know, trying to sort of treat your body as if it's like, I don't know, hate to again be cheesy, but like a temple, you know, because it's kind of like this is our body. So it's like, I think I find that when I feel better and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I ate really good yesterday, I feel proud of myself, and it does make me feel better and more excited for the next day. So that's what I've been trying to practice.
Yeah, and I think those are great suggestions. I'll tell you what I do. One is I try to do something every day that I really enjoy. And this sort of goes back, Jenna, to what you're saying about something different or new, whether it's writing or whatever. But I schedule it. I mean, I don't write it down in my calendar, but I schedule it, trying to do something that I really enjoy every day that serves as a distraction, but something, you know, it's sort of like a journey of discovery, just, you know, whether it's food or stuff. I think that's really helpful. I do try to meditate. It takes me a while to sort of get into it because you have to be still Wrabel, like you were talking about, it's sort of hard sometimes for me to be still, but I think that that's really helpful. What I found really helpful is connecting with people that I haven't connected with in years.
Yes.
Like even from high school. I mean, this guy that he texted or he messaged me, when was it? Like 5 years ago after our high school reunion. And the message was, "Hey, Rich, we're getting together for brunch tomorrow. Why don't you join us?" And because I'm never on Messenger, I never answered him for 5 years. But I didn't mean to like ghost him, but I didn't. And then somehow I saw that and I said, "Oh my gosh." So I wrote to him and we had this great Zoom conversation and I apologized. I said, "I'm sorry about that." And we laughed about that, but now we're going to have a mini sort of high school reunion. And then some relatives that I haven't talked to that I just want to sort of connect, so that's what I'm doing a lot of. I've also started this intermittent fasting thing, which I said I would try, where you don't, you eat dinner and then you don't eat until. So I'm trying it to see what'll happen with that, and I'm buying lots of chocolate. No, I'm not doing that.
Oh my God.
I was like, same.
By the way, I think that there is something to be said to be able to healthily treat yourself once in a while if you can do it responsibly.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, eat a fucking.
And that's this whole idea of being kind to yourself, right? So, and Wrabel, when you're talking about bowling and stuff, and you said it may sound silly, I will tell you a secret. Okay, I haven't really told anybody this.
Oh my God.
But, maybe I won't tell you.
No,
but
Say it.
I got some Lego for a very young person in my life, and I never opened the big Lego box, but I did, and I'm starting Lego, and then I just have this urge to do finger painting.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
finger painting?
I love
think that
it.
would be a blast. So, but yeah, going back to that playing, I mean, to ask yourself the question, well, how can I play today? What would that look
Yeah.
like?
I mean,
It's a really good question.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that that's so fun. I love that. It makes me actually get finger paint this weekend, maybe. It's Labor Day.
But I keep looking at your fingernails and I say, boy, I'd love to do that. Maybe I'll do that.
See, that's a joy, is painting your nails. But actually, hold on. I just want to ask one more question before we leave. One more, I promise. Wrabel, I see a question on here for you saying, looking back, do you feel like those experiences propelled your career as a musician or slowed it down? But I feel like you sort of asked, but in general, do you feel,
I think that everything that I've been through has allowed me to now, and hopefully for a long time, so long as I keep working at it, allow me to just be present in everything. And so therefore, being present in an opportunity and showing up for an opportunity. Like when I went to treatment for 2 months and I left a record label while I was in the middle of that and was devastated and thought my whole career's over. Like, what am I gonna do? And the truth is that every time I thought there was a brick wall in front of me, it was a mirage. So long as I wrote another song, if it took me an hour, a week, a month, a year, so long as I kept showing up, and so long as I stayed sober, I think that I know if I had a sip of alcohol right now, everything that I have built for myself would be dismantled instantly. I know that to be fact. And I hold that to be, again, all caps, bold, fact, that I can't do that. That's not an option for me. So then it goes to that thing of, okay, well, what is an option? And sometimes I do stuff a little out of hand. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, watches are really pretty. Like, let's look at more. Or like, I love Balenciaga sunglasses, but allowing myself little windows of like, okay, go a little wild today.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But I think everything that I've been through with my addiction it's also directly affected my creativity because I write about my life. And so like the song I just put out is literally about getting sober and coming out and becoming this version of myself now, and feeling like I said, like on my best days, feeling like my aura can't be contained by a Toyota Prius.
It's almost like, it sounds to me like the actual act of alcoholism slowed you down, obviously based on what you were saying, but your life experience through it has propelled you. Not to say that, like, listen, everybody has their own life experience, but I like to believe that we all have a path and all have a story that we're supposed to walk, and that's just what it is. So maybe from what you're saying, it's like, you know, had you not gone through these things and come out on the other side in such a positive light, maybe you wouldn't be where you're at today, which is
Totally.
That's cool. I really like that. I mean, honestly, thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
It's been so great. And I just wanted to say before we leave too, that obviously this coming week is National Suicide Prevention Week. So I think, you know, obviously let's be very aware of that and aware of people in our lives that are going through things like, you know, as we're discussing today, because, you know, you just really never know. And I really love that you said, Wrabel, that people check on you. And I think for anyone watching or even us, like, let's make it a point this week to like hit up, you know, 2 or 3 people, hit up and make sure they're okay this week, because just, you don't know. And I think we should really hold ourselves to that, not just say it, because a lot of times people just say things, as we know, we just post things to be like, oh yeah, to be, you know, we do, because that's our culture. I do it. We do it. I mean, that's just what it is. But authentically, we have to show up for people, the people we love, period.
100%. That was very beautifully said.
Well said. Yeah.
What a great episode, guys.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate the time, and thank you for everyone listening, and thank you all on this screen for your thoughts and heart.
I was just gonna, so much love, you guys. I really appreciate this, and I will most likely be posting it next Friday, so I will keep everyone abreast to that on social media.
Right.
So remember to hit up somebody, hit many people up you love this week.
That's a good challenge. Text blast everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.